Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll see what happens. We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I am a dissident.
Don't move. Vote.
I'm saying no. Why you hear Palantir, 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 Palantir? It's not going to be stopped.
Seriously, we need to release the Epstein list.
Turns off.
I am not a church boy.
Turns off.
They're full-on vampires.
They hate our beef. They hate our beef. They hate our beef because our beef is beautiful and theirs is weak.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome, one and all, to a special Tuesday evening edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobular.
Oh, hello.
How's everybody doing today? Hope everybody's good. We got 619 strong in the YouTube chat, 239 strong over on Rumble. How's my sound? Do you hear? Does it sound good? Do I sound crisp?
God damn it.
Do I sound crisp and clear, Russell? Do you hear any background humming in the room? Do you hear any background humming in the room?
Hang on, I'm having a new computer issue.
We're on the air, just so you know. The show has started. The show has begun.
Yes, I know.
The curtain is up. The crowd is seated. They're anticipating a show. Well, anyway, how do I sound, guys? Do I sound silky smooth?
Okay, so
Josh
now
Clemens?
say it.
Yes,
now
I do.
say it again.
Audio is fine. All right, audio is fine. I sound great. Pretty good. All right, good. No hum? No, the reason I ask is because, I remember a while back, we made a promise not to invest in or improve the show.
Yes. And we've kept that promise.
We have kept that promise, although I have made a minor investment in my studio space for purposes of my own comfort. and that is I bought a little mini fridge for the office here, and it's running, and it's making a ever so slight bzzz, but I figured the mic wouldn't pick it up. So I invested in my own comfort. I just didn't put that product on the screen, into the product at all. You know,
you
that
just
I didn't
can't see the money spent on the screen.
I'm not on the screen. You can't see it in the result, but
You know how
I am
they
more
say
comfortable.
you can see every dollar we spent up on that screen.
Right.
This is the opposite.
This
of
is the
that.
opposite, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
I have some water bottles getting chilled to a nice temperature just off the screen, and I just wanted to make sure that that didn't interfere with the sound, because if it did, we'd have to cancel the show. So I can keep the fridge running.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Right. So
yeah.
that's good.
So I was having a problem there because it's a new computer, so the Rumble Studio tab wasn't muted. So I was getting
an echo.
I was
Right,
getting
right,
a
right.
Canon.
Right. Exactly. Yes. It was a row your situation there. All right. Well, great. No, just water. No vodka, Quarterman. No. I'm not that unprofessional. I'm not that indulgent. Just got a little fridge, that comes in certain like hotel rooms. Tiny little thing. So that's good. All right. Well, that's a relief. Excuse me.
I've never had a real refrigerator, man. Like a nice one. I've only ever had the kind of refrigerators that they provide with an apartment. You know, I've never had the kind that makes ice or anything.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Well, maybe someday.
Digital.
Maybe someday. Yeah. Exactly.
They're not that expensive, really.
No, they're not.
It's just more than they're going to spend on the peasants in the apartments.
Yes. That's right. Well, maybe that'll be Mamdani's second term. He'll have ice making
It'll-
mandated for every apartment.
He'll mandate that. At minimum, it has to have an ice maker and a
Yes.
digital temperature control.
And if it breaks, the landlord has to fix it within 72 hours, or the building gets seized, and the landlord
Yes.
goes to prison.
It gets turned into a co-op.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. The reason for the late show tonight is because tonight is Film Club night with our partners and collaborators at Right Brain TV. We are doing The Beat Generation, An American Dream, which is a new addition to the Right Brain TV catalog. They have licensed out a tremendous selection of great films, which they have been generous enough to extend to us on these Film Club nights once a month. But we only do this once a month, and so you could see they have an entire website worth of great material from dissident filmmakers from all around the world, spanning multiple periods of time. And so if you would like to support Right Brain TV, you can go to rightbraintv.com and become a member. You get 40% off an annual subscription when you use the coupon code DD2026. So if you want to go and help Right Brain TV out, you get an amazing selection of films, a virtually endless trove of great stuff to watch when you become a member. They have film series, documentaries, fictional films, narrative films, documentary films, short films, both films that they've licensed out from the filmmakers, but also they have their own material that they have created themselves. So it's a great site. If you want 40% off, it's a great deal. 40% off an annual membership with the coupon code DD2026. But tonight, we will be watching an hour-long doc from their newest selection of material that they have curated for their site. So that'll be for Rumble Premium members and for our patrons. So if you would like to sign up, go to patreon.com/DoDissidents. Not only will you get the Film Club presentation and discussion and Q&A, but you will also get a bonus segment tonight on the wonderful new film Citizen Vigilante. We're not showing any of that film. Well, we'll show some short clips, but we have a segment on the phenomenon that is Citizen Vigilante.
Yes. I had time to watch most of it. That is some of the funniest shit I have ever seen. So definitely come over to the other side, because the clipped version that we drop is not going to be able to include the clips that I'm going to be showing over there. So
Right.
definitely come over. It's going to be a much more extensive deep dive into citizen vigilante than the YouTube clip version will be. I showed Keaton some. It was
Yeah, pretty funny stuff. Pretty funny stuff. For background on that, that was
it's
tweeted out.
incredible.
They
It's
made
incredible.
it free on Twitter for like 48 hours. Elon tweeted it out. And then, of course, people downloaded it. It was available to download. And so clips are everywhere. But you know how YouTube is, automatic copyright triggers and probably other violent content triggers too. So, yeah, come on over and watch that. That's going to be a great segment. And then we have Film Club with our pals at Right Brain TV. So that's all coming up later. Patreon.com/Do Dissidents gets you access to the full show. Once you sign up, the most recent post in the queue is going to have the link to the members only stream. We have 17 people hanging out in the members only stream already. So off to, pardon me, a good start. All right, let's get into some material, though. We got a full show for you all, of course, between now and then. Big day for the Constitution today. The Supreme Court issuing some rulings here. The most consequential, of course, is the upholding of the trans sports ban in Idaho, which affects, if I had to guess, exactly 7 people. I would put the over-under at 7 people. I would say there are approximately 7 trans athletes in the state of Idaho. That's where I would place the over-under. That's where I would place the over-under.
In Idaho?
Yeah, yeah.
No, actually they have an entire sports league there. That's why this became an issue there.
Yeah.
They
That's
have
probably why the
Idaho,
case was brought.
home of the Spuds and the Studs. That's
And
what
the
they
Spuds
say.
and the Studs.
That's their motto.
And the West Virginia, too, was also a party to that suit, as I understand. But, of course, I'm not an expert on that because I kid, of course.
Well, that was they had to bring that suit because of Tim there.
That's right. That's right. The Harper's Ferry, the beanie baby of Harper's Ferry.
Yeah.
So, of course, I kid, the most consequential ruling of the day, arguably of this session, because there were some rulings.
He's hiding his badge under there.
Yeah. There were some rulings handed down yesterday as well. But the big one is, of course, the upholding of birthright citizenship, which strikes down Trump's executive order ending birthright citizenship. So SCOTUS blog always does a great job explaining these rulings. We're not going to get into too much detail. We did a full segment on this a couple months ago when it seemed evident that this ruling was in the offing. But just for some quick context here, the Supreme Court on Tuesday struck down President Donald Trump's executive order seeking to end birthright citizenship, the guarantee of citizenship to virtually everyone born in the United States. In a decision by Chief Justice John Roberts in Trump versus Barrett, the justices agreed with the challengers, as well as all of the lower courts around the country that have considered the issue, that Trump's order cannot be reconciled with the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, which confers citizenship on anyone born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Writing for the majority, Roberts emphasized that the children born of parents unlawfully or temporarily present in the United States satisfy both elements of the Citizenship Clause. Under the Constitution, he concluded, they are citizens at birth. And yes, here is the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution, Section 1. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. So pretty simple, pretty cut.
Right, no
dry.
two ways. Yeah.
Ain't no two ways about that. But of course, that didn't stop the chuds from raging over this. R.I.P. America, says Mandox, 1776 to 2026. And he was not alone. He was not alone. R.I.P. America was trending this morning as the 14th Amendment was upheld in a no-brainer decision by the Supreme Court. But it was a 6-3 vote, which was actually closer than it should have been, since obviously ending birthright citizenship is just a brazen violation of the Constitution and the 14th Amendment, as clearly evidenced by the text. But here's Fox News giving us some rundowns of the dissenters. The dissenters, which are Alito, Thomas, and Gorsuch. Now, Gorsuch, there's a little asterisk next to him, which we'll get into. But first, here's Samuel Alito saying, well, what if?
Who's got more yet again? Shannon.
All right, this comes from Justice Alito, who brought this up during the arguments. This is his separate dissent. He said the court's interpretation also has national security implications. Suppose that a person's only connection to this country is that he was born here to a mother who was present just long enough to give birth and then quickly return to her native country. Suppose that country is a strategic adversary or enemy of the United States. Suppose the child never visited the United States while growing up and was inculcated with hatred of this country. According to this court now, that person...
Suppose a mentally ill man with a history of domestic violence rolls up to a gun show in a tent and buys 10 AR-15s. Should that be allowed? Oh, I guess it has to be allowed, we're told, every year because of the text of the Second Amendment, which is actually much more open to interpretation than the 14th Amendment, which very clearly states in no uncertain terms, anyone born here is a citizen. Okay, we'll get to the Second Amendment later.
Is a
all of a sudden they want. All of a sudden they're
United
asking,
States.
"Hey, wait, but what
He
about
can
this? What
enter
about
and
that?"
leave the country as he pleases. He can travel the world on a United States passport. Even if he plots to harm this country, he cannot be deprived of his status as a citizen, at least under current precedent. He goes on to say that this decision today also provides a powerful incentive to enter or remain in this country illegally. He goes on to say, in my judgment, the court has made a mistake that will seriously affect the country's future. So some very pointed...
When have they done that before? When have they not thought of the country's future? Oh, no, not the country's future. You see...
Especially when the vagary of the statute has often been compared to Nostradamus's quatrains. Nobody really knows what it means, so how can they be so sure?
Exactly.
All
now
who
it's
are
all about,
born in the United States are citizens. That could mean anything.
Yeah. No, exactly. No, now they all want to think about, hey, what does this mean for the future of the country? You notice how they are strict constitutionalists when they want to be. And when they don't want to be, they will just disregard the literal text of the document.
Isn't that what they call legislating from the bench? I thought they were against that.
Yes, exactly. That sounds like judicial activism to me. So that's Justice Alito's dissent. Here is some of what Clarence Thomas had to say as reported by Fox News.
For the view from Justice Thomas, who was a dissenter here. Shannon.
Yeah, in his dissent, he gets to that point, Bill, that you're making there. The 14th Amendment was enacted in the wake of the Civil War, quote, with the one pervading purpose of securing equal citizenship for the freed slaves. He writes, it was enacted, as Justice Harlan wrote, to secure to a race recently emancipated the civil rights that other citizens enjoyed. So Thomas has always been about that was the purpose of the 14th Amendment. He goes on to say that the court, meaning the majority now, has repurposed the 14th Amendment to protect its own set of preferred rights that the Reconstruction Congress never contemplated and that cannot find support in the text. Today, the court does so by...
Again, the authors of the Second Amendment never contemplated weapons of war being sold at fairs that people attend for their own entertainment. But that doesn't seem to stop the legislators and the judicial branch, for that matter, from interpreting the Second Amendment to mean that that's okay. Once again, you just see such unbelievable hypocrisy on display here. Now, Gorsuch looked like he was going to be part of the majority opinion. When we covered this, what was it, about a month and a half, 2 months ago, Gorsuch kept grilling the Trump lawyers about their case, and it seemed as though he wasn't buying it. So what happened here? So Robbie Suave, of Hill Rising, former fame, I guess. The dissent from Neil Gorsuch in the Birthright Citizenship case is actually very interesting. He basically says that he would deny birthright citizenship to children of temporary visitors, but not to illegal immigrants who lived here permanently. So on the question of whether illegal immigrants' kids are citizens, it's actually more like a 7-2 decision. This was the question of domicile. Do you have permanent residence here in the United States, or are you here visiting? So it seems like even if Gorsuch had been part of a majority opinion, it would have been a narrower decision. Sometimes the court kind of rules with a sort of asterisk next to it. So it seems like in terms of children of illegal immigrants, it was more like 7-2 than 6-3. This is a portion of Gorsuch's more nuanced dissent. Finally, just because the executive order has some lawful applications and can survive a facial challenge does not mean it is lawful across the board and immune from narrower legal challenges. So even if that had been a majority opinion, it still would have probably been the case if it went 5-4 that there would be some stipulation there, some differentiation between children of illegal immigrants and children of people who were just visiting here doing, the quote unquote birth tourism, as they said. So just because the executive order has some lawful applications and can survive a facial challenge does not mean it is lawful across the board. All right. So speaking of facial, Benny Johnson had something to say about this. The U.S. Supreme Court rules to uphold birthright citizenship for children of illegal aliens. Justices Barrett and Roberts sided with the liberals. Americans were betrayed again. Matt Walsh, very upset about this. The actual birthright belongs to my children and the children of all real Americans. They have a birthright to live in a country that resembles the one our ancestors established. And now that birthright, the only true birthright, has been destroyed in favor of the imagined birthright of children born to parents who don't even belong in this country and have no ancestral or cultural ties to it whatsoever. Total madness, suicide. Words cannot describe how evil this is. At least I got to live for 40 years in a country that looks and functions something like America. Oh, no, come on. Don't get upset. You still got Donald Trump as president. What are you getting so upset for? That's it? America's, it's that easy? That easy to ruin your good time? The fact that my children are having that opportunity stolen from them fills me with rage so deep I can't describe it. I truly hate the people who have done this to us. I guess by that you mean the 39th Congress, or whichever Congress ratified the 14th Amendment. That, if my math is right, I think it was the 39th.
You can still sneak into gay bars claiming to be Mike Figueredo.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, look on the bright side.
It's not all bad.
Cheer up. Megyn Kelly, the 14th Amendment was never intended to allow any non-citizen to confer citizenship on her child and thereby skip the line by delivering the baby here. This court majority, especially the squish conservatives, all too afraid of being called racist, to find accordingly. Yeah, this court really is afraid of being called racist. Supreme Court guts affirmative action, effectively ending race-conscious admissions. This was under President Biden, because Thomas
usually writes his opinions with a bag of Oreos in front of him.
Yeah, exactly. Once again, 14th Amendment, very, very clear on this. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state wherein they reside. Why do all these conservatives hate America so much? Why do they hate the Constitution so much? Right? There's all this speculation and all this debate about the intention behind the text of the 14th Amendment. Well, they never anticipated this. They never anticipated that. You can actually make a much more nuanced argument about the Second Amendment than you can the 14th Amendment. So this was kind of a famous paper here by Professor Carl Bogus, who argued in the late 90s that the Second Amendment was enacted to assure Southern states that Congress would not undermine the slave system. So this is one interpretation of the meaning of the Second Amendment, because, of course, the Second Amendment says that a well-regulated militia is necessary for the maintenance of a free state. When James Madison originally wrote the Second Amendment, the original text had free country, not free state. And so there's a lot of speculation. Why would you make the conscious decision to change it from the country to the state? Well, because southern states had state militias that were mobilized to crush slave revolts. And they were afraid that either those militias would be disarmed by the federal government, or that if they were reliant on the National Guard to come in and crush a slave rebellion, that northern states would basically vote against mobilizing the National Guard because, hey, they're free states. Why are we sending our guys to go and potentially risk their lives to crush a slave revolt? So if you want to argue in a nuanced way about intent behind these various constitutional amendments, there's actually much more room for interpretation regarding the Second Amendment than there is the 14th. Now, this is one argument. People have argued against this. Georgetown Journal of Law and Public Policy argues the Second Amendment was adopted to protect liberty, not slavery, a reply to Professors Bogus and Anderson. Point is, this is a matter of continuing debate, but the text says what it says. And none of that nuance seems to be debatable for these right-wingers when it comes to interpreting the Second Amendment, which is actually much more vague. But here they want to brazenly defy the 14th Amendment. There you have it, says Stephen Crowder. Amy Coney Barrett and John Roberts just decided that little Josu, born to illegal Haitians in Springfield, Ohio, is just as American as you and me because of the 14th Amendment or something. Yes, that is accurate. Yep, that is right on the money. Nailed it. Nailed it. Donald Trump says, I guess I have to accept it. It's the Supreme Court.
Supreme Court, so I'll accept. I think it's very bad for our nation. We're the only nation that does it. No other nation does that birthright citizenship. No, not even close. Some did it, they ended it. It's tremendously destructive. It's extremely costly. I don't know, it's up to them. But in terms of for the good of the country, it'd be great if they didn't allow it. It would be great, but I can't tell you. The Slaughter case was the big case today. That was really a big case because it gave strength to presidents and strength to the presidency. A very important case.
That was the case that allowed him to fire the FTC commissioner. Yeah, there were different rulings that came down over the previous couple of days here. Senator Rand Paul says, upset with the SCOTUS decision today? Call your senator and tell them to support my constitutional amendment to end birthright citizenship. We must protect the integrity of American citizenship. Okay, so, you know, I don't blame conservatives for being upset at the policy of birthright citizenship. But what I would say to this is, even if you are opposed to the policy of birthright citizenship, you should still be grateful that the court ruled in this way. Because had this decision gone the other way, it would have set an incredibly dangerous precedent that basically the Constitution has no meaning anymore. If a majority of the court could just find that, no, just because the 14th Amendment clearly states that anyone born here is a citizen.
Could not be clearer.
Could not literally be any clearer, any less ambiguous. If the court ruled to basically disregard the 14th Amendment, that means any court can rule to disregard the First Amendment. Or in a few years, if the First Amendment violations don't scare the MAGA anymore, which apparently they don't, when President they-them Mick Wokenstein comes, maybe they can disregard the Second Amendment, right? So even if you disagree with birthright citizenship as a policy, and I think there are reasonable, rational disagreements that you can have with birthright citizenship as a policy, it is going to require a constitutional amendment in order to undo it. Now people are saying, well, they can pass legislation getting around it. I don't see how that legislation wouldn't be subject to the same challenges that this executive order was. I mean, if a law is in blatant defiance of the Constitution, that law is challenged and that law is struck down. And so that seems to be what is going to happen every time, unless and until a constitutional amendment is passed. And these are lessons that, once again, all of these constitutional conservatives are very happy to lecture people about on most other issues, but not this one.
Yeah. You know, Trump is right that it's not as if birthright citizenship is the standard around the world. It's the exception. I don't know the history. I don't know why they decided that. I don't know if that was the common legal theory other places at that time. Nationalism was still kind of young. They're still sorting that out when they wrote the Constitution. It's an interesting question.
Well, it was passed right after the Civil War, which means, yes, they probably did have this question of slaves and freed slaves on their brain. But when they wrote the original Bill of Rights, they were very deliberate in the language that they chose, and this was ratified by Congress. And so
Right.
if you phrased it that absolutely and that broadly, it probably meant that the impetus for ratifying the 14th Amendment was the end of the Civil War.
Right,
But the fact that they passed it with such broad language meant
Well,
that it had
that's
universal application.
well-
I mean, that's
well,
how
that-
they
yeah,
intended.
that-
They would have
that's-
stipulated otherwise if they didn't want it to have such
Oh,
broad
they
application.
definitely did. I'm
Yeah.
curious how common that was at the time, because it certainly is not now a common theory of citizenship, even in the West, that birth makes you an automatic citizen. That is unique. But hey, as you pointed out, they uphold the Second Amendment on much more vague wording and legal theory on the grounds, well, it's in the Constitution. You want to
Right.
change it. You need to have a big amendment, 2/3 vote of the states to change it. Well, that's what you would have to do to change this. I don't necessarily argue that it isn't a strange policy. I think it is, actually. I mean, it does obviously create incentives to come, 2 weeks before the baby's going to pop out
Sure.
to get American citizenship. But yeah, if that goes for the Second Amendment, it goes for the 14th. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, them's the rules, right? I mean, that's what it comes down to. All right, we're gonna move right on because we got a little bit more to talk about the Supreme Court. So, Amy Coney Barrett was confirmed in the 11th hour of Trump's first term, of course, after the passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And they get really mad. MAGA gets really pissed off at Amy Coney Barrett whenever she rules against them. They don't have this same vitriol for Kavanaugh, who has ruled against them in some instances, or Gorsuch, who has ruled against them in some instances. Actually, the irony is that Trump's judicial appointments to the Supreme Court have actually shown to be much more flexible in general than the guys like Thomas and Alito, who are just completely dogmatic and unmovable. But American AF says Amy Coney Barrett really went all the way to Haiti to adopt 2 children, one around 2005 and another in 2010. In 2005, roughly 114,000 children were waiting to be adopted in the U.S. She doesn't give a fuck about Americans with those Haitian children she adopted. Joey Manarino says in advance of this ruling, he got up early this morning, I guess, in anticipation of the news. If Amy Coney Barrett really votes against ending birthright citizenship, we should begin to look into how to deport her Haitian child back to Haiti. Yeah, that's very pro-America.
These are wonderful people.
Pro-family values. Yeah, really nice people. When a Supreme Court justice exercises her legitimate authority as an interpreter of the Constitution and gets it so obviously correct, we should retaliate by figuring out how to deport her child back to Haiti. No, that's a wonderful sentiment there. These are such lovely family values people here, aren't they? War Elephant says, so this is back in 2020. This is what's really ironic about this, okay? Because I remember specifically in 2020 when Amy Coney Barrett was appointed, the Republicans were making a big deal in a positive way about how she adopted children from Haiti. The attacks on Amy Coney Barrett for her adopted children from Haiti are revealing the true evil and ugliness of the progressive attack on adoption. Oh, okay. So I guess you applauded her for adopting children from Haiti back then. Now, not so much. Here's another one. September 2020. With 2 adopted children from Haiti, it's going to be interesting to watch Democrats try to smear Amy Coney Barrett as racist. See, happy to tokenize the adopted kids from Haiti when they were able to say, see, we're not racist. Our Supreme Court justice adopted kids from Haiti. And then as soon as she rules against you, deport her kids back to Haiti. If she wanted a child, she should have adopted an American child. Why did she adopt a Haitian child? You see how pathetic these people are? It's unbelievable. Really is.
Well, especially all those unadopted Americans are only Americans because of birthright citizenship.
That's true.
So what are they talking about?
That's right. That's right. So here is Megyn Kelly saying Amy Coney Barrett is a turncoat. She's constantly sitting with the left. I don't know if they meant siding, but the point remains. Let's watch a couple minutes of this.
Breaking news out of the High Court in a truly surprising decision. The justices in a 5-4 decision.
Oh, yeah. I should have mentioned this. I apologize. This was yesterday. Amy Coney Barrett was the deciding vote in order to strike down Trump's attack on mail-in voting. So basically, that was another decision that went against Donald Trump yesterday, is that rule now where you're not allowed to count ballots that come in after Election Day. That has been struck down by the Supreme Court, with Amy Coney Barrett siding with the majority. So they were very upset
So Keaton,
yesterday, not just today.
Have you changed your opinion of Amy Pancakes?
Yeah, I used to call her Amy Pancakes. I used to call her Amy Pancakes.
Yeah, you don't do that anymore.
No, I don't. She's now Amy Coney Barrett from this day forward.
Upholding a Mississippi law. Already it's weird because the Trump administration is on the other side of a Mississippi law, which you would already expect that those two things would be aligned, the Trump administration and the Mississippi law, but they weren't.
Yeah,
the Republican National Committee actually brought this suit, and then the Trump administration got involved because it involves what is Election Day mean? When can one vote? When the law says Election Day is this particular day. Can they vote for 2 weeks after, 2 months after, like in California?
No, they can't.
Where it seems as long as you can convince them that your ballot may even have your own handwriting on it saying, I swear this is being postmarked on Election Day, it can be counted for days and weeks thereafter.
Right. If they cast a vote on Election Day, it can be counted after Election Day. That's what Amy Coney Barrett is arguing. Apparently, the majority sided with her. Now, one thing you have to ask yourself in a case like this, because Election Day is the day that you vote, it's not necessarily the day that the votes are counted. Now, look, we've said in the past, other countries have a way of counting votes very, very quickly. In Brazil, the polls close at 9 o'clock. By 9:01, boom, the results are in. So, again, I'm not totally against you on the policy here, but there are considerations that you have to make. For example, what if there's a massive cyber attack on Election Day and the votes are not countable on Election Day in a handful of states, districts, whatever? What are you going to say? Well, we throw those votes out? What if you can't access those votes for a few days, right? These are things you have to think about. And so the interpretation was that Election Day is the day by which all votes must be registered. And if it takes a few days afterwards to count them, then that is permissible.
Or does it have to be the day of? Does that ballot have to be received the day of the election? And the Trump administration and the RNC have lost. And this is big. This is I'm sorry to say this, but this is a massive gift.
I'm sorry to say that now we're going to have to win elections. Yeah, it's hard to say. Now it's going to be easier for people to vote against us now.
To Democrats. I mean, look, what was at issue here was they were postmarked by Election Day in Mississippi. That's what the law says. And received by state election officials within 5 business days. But can you ever remember a case in which ballots came in after Election Day and it helped the Republicans? Has that ever happened? I can't remember a single instance of that. It always helps the Democrats. Gee, so strange how that works out.
Well, it's not that strange how that works out, okay? The reason for this phenomenon, especially in 2020, is that the Democratic voters tended to be much more COVID cautious than the Republican voters, especially since they tend to be concentrated in urban areas where the polling places are more crowded, right? And so in 2020, 60% Democrats vote by mail to only 32% of Republicans. And if you notice, it's still the case that Democrats tend to vote by mail more, but even by 2024, the margins had shrunk by quite a bit, 37 to 24. So, it's not as though this is as huge an advantage for Democrats now as it was in 2020. Of course, the reason why more Democrats still do it is because, things are habit forming. Once you do it one time, you're more likely to do it a second time. But no, that's not all that strange.
And it's one of those things where Republicans can't prove it, but they smell a rat, like in California and the mayoral race.
They can't let this go.
And the
the
Democrats,
mayoral
I think,
race
have gotten very clever about manipulating this system in a way that magically tips the balance their way.
It did not tip the balance their way in California. We've been through this over and over again. The Democratic establishment would much rather run against Spencer Pratt than the progressive in the race. If they were going to rig it some way, they would have rigged it for Spencer Pratt, since they're polling well ahead of Spencer Pratt. Now they could lose to the socialist who came in second.
Where, like, Nithya Raman, who was in last position out there in that mayoral race, suddenly surged to first in jurisdictions that she had been trailing. She was down in single digits and now suddenly wins them.
I don't know if she ever surged to first. She surged above Spencer Pratt.
Right. Yeah.
Obviously, Karen Bass would rather run against Spencer Pratt than against Nithya Raman.
Yeah.
So this argument makes absolutely zero sense. It never did.
So that mail-in vote, I guess her voters were just awfully silent about their love and support for her prior to the election day. Or could it have been shenanigans by these paid Democrat operatives exploiting the homeless and others to make sure that ballots came in late?
The ballots came in late, and now they have a more difficult race on their hands than they would have had they just let what was it, World's Gayest Chud win there. What show was he on? What was the show he was on? It wasn't World's Gayest Chud. What was it?
Yeah, no, it was.
Forget.
I forget now.
Forget it. Doesn't matter.
The OC? Was it the OC?
I don't know. It wasn't that. It was something else. The audience will know.
No. Yeah.
But here she is again, Amy Coney Barrett, saving the Democrat mail-in ballot scheme. Here she is bemoaning that Amy Coney Barrett is not an activist judge, I guess. I thought conservatives hated activist judges, but here she is pretty much insisting that she be an activist judge.
A Trump appointee. She's supposed to be one of ours. Why are they always so wiggly? Honestly, like the libs, you can take it to the bank.
It's literally their job to be wiggly. The entire reason the judicial branch of government exists is because they're wiggly and they're unaccountable to the whims and opinions of the majority. That is literally the reason why there is a third branch of government at all. They are there to be wiggly. They are there to act as a check on the majority. So when the majority passes a law or signs an executive order that's blatantly unconstitutional, they have a check. This is just basic American civics. I mean, this is as basic as it gets. How you can say out of one side of your mouth you're this big flag-waving patriot and then be completely ignorant to this, or just be shameless enough to pretend you don't know it, which is what I suspect Megyn Kelly is doing here. It's just really, really shameless.
Kagan, Sotomayor, Ketanji Brown Jackson. I have to admire their commitment to their side. They never abandon their side. Only in the most obvious cases where, like, they'd just get killed if they didn't, in terms of the, blowback, the rhetorical blowback. But they stick together. Amy Coney Barrett is a turncoat. She's constantly siding with the left. John Roberts, obviously, and he is
constantly
pursuing
siding
the
with the
wrong
left.
agenda
You guys
as Chief
overturned
Justice.
Roe versus Wade. This is the court that overturned Roe versus Wade. This is the court that ended affirmative action. This is the court that really hamstrung DEI. What do you mean? This is a court that has completely just turned loose money in the campaign system. So they do not always side with the left.
He's an institutionalist meant to protect the Supreme Court. The wrong agenda as Chief Justice. He's an institutionalist meant to protect the Supreme Court. That's not your job. That's not your job in the actual decision making. I mean, I can see in protecting the Supreme Court's reputation, standing up for justices who are under attack, threatened physically, but you change your vote for that? I don't know that that's what he did here, but it's definitely what he did in upholding Obamacare. So those two.
No, being impartial is maintaining the reputation of the Supreme Court, which is, of course, your job as a Supreme Court justice, much less the Chief Justice. Again, the whole reason the court exists is to check the majority. The fact that they are unaccountable to public opinion is why they are there, and it's why they need to be there. In cases like this, where the president signs an executive order that just blatantly disregards the text of the Constitution. If there were no judicial branch to say, actually, no, you can't do that, then at that point, you may as well throw the Constitution out. At that point, you don't have a real country anymore, because there is no one there to enforce the actual codified statutes upon which the political system and legal system is based.
We're supposed to have 6-3 conservatives to libs. And today we only had 4 conservatives. And that's how we lost, because Roberts and Barrett jumped over to the liberal side. And Barrett even wrote the court's majority opinion. Mississippi's a red state. But the decision is expected to have a major impact more than anywhere in Democrat-heavy states whose...
Yeah, exactly.
So my career has followed the path of the career of a porn actress much more than you would think. So let me explain what that means for you. So your audience is primarily male as a porn actress, right? And it's primarily male if you're going to go trolling in these conservative spaces. So for those men, they really want to see a piece of ass telling them what they want to hear. And when I started out, that was easy because they're looking at the tits while I'm screaming about Black Santa Claus. And that was as far as I had to go. But as you get older, just as with a porn actress, you have to do things to continue to satisfy that male audience you didn't have to do at the beginning. So this is me doing DP. Okay, this is me doing gangbangs, anal, all kinds of things I wouldn't do at the beginning because I have to shovel out more and more shit to this male audience that doesn't want to watch Skeletor the way they wanted to watch young Megan.
Right. Yeah. Saggy Megan now, I guess. That's
it's Ozempic Megan.
Yeah.
Ozempic face Megan.
Ozempic face Megan. She's always been pretty thin, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
Not like that. Not like that, because that's what happens at that age. It's kind of a saying amongst the ladies, it's your fanny or your face.
Oh,
like basically,
right?
yeah, like because you're gonna lose that collagen that gives you a certain plumpness, but it looks healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you look at her when she was younger, she has cheeks. She has no cheeks now because basically, yeah, like if you're not going to have any fat at that age, well, then you're going to look a little skeletal. It's not natural. It's not how your body naturally ages.
Yeah. Interesting. I never knew that. But yeah, no, they really have a hard time with Amy
all the
Coney
women
Barrett.
who know me say I'm a good listener. That's why I know.
That's why he said that, just to prove that whole monologue was just to prove to all the women out there what a great listener Russ is. That was the whole point.
How much I can think like a female.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. See, when you talk, he listens. He doesn't just stare at you and wait for you to be done talking.
No cat stare here.
No cat stare there. That's right. But yeah, they really have a special resentment for Amy Coney Barrett when she rules against them. Because like I said, all 3 of the Trump justices from time to time go rogue. But Amy Coney Barrett seems to be the one that they have a particular hard-on for when she does something that they think is disloyal. Their loyalty is to the Constitution only. Without that, they would not exist.
Yeah, and as you pointed out, to suggest that the court that struck down Roe v. Wade and completely gutted the Voting Rights Act is always siding with the left is ridiculous. This is the most radically right-wing court since Brown v. Board of Ed.
Yeah, Exactly. Like you always assume a decision is going to go the wrong way with this court. It's always a pleasant surprise when it doesn't, because, when something happens that you think is just, well, this has to get shot down by the Supreme Court, you can't be so sure with this court. Although with this one, it was so obvious that most people knew as soon as this happened that this would eventually get struck down. And it did. It did. All right. You want to take some super chats and some rumble rants?
Sure. Oh, whoops. Sorry. I went into the media assets. All right. Turd burglar. Watch out. That could be a sticky business.
Hey, Turd
Hey,
burglar.
Keaton. Thanks for the segment about Promise to America last Sunday. I signed their online petition 1,000 times, but for some reason, they don't want to add me to their Our Members page. I can't figure out why. Okay. Vienticus Prime. Everything's a scam. Everything's a lie. Everything's hypocrisy. And so you don't comply.
There you go.
Look, I give you a beatbox with it this time. Vienticus Prime. So I'm glad the Kids Act passed yesterday and that we're all one step closer to needing to provide a face scan to look up recipes for New England clam chowder. That's pretty funny. Okay, so look, I mean, my take on this whole thing is nuanced. Just like I don't feel like you have to make what I consider a very illogical argument that life is not life until a certain point in order to justify being pro-choice. I'm pro-choice, and I believe you're taking a life. I don't feel it's the state's place or my place to make that decision for women. I think it's a question that's so philosophical that it's not the place of the state to resolve it. So I'm still pro-choice, and I still don't really believe in that argument. I think to try to make the argument that social media and being too online is not damaging to kids is not, I mean, much more so than the pro-choice argument. Like, we have the brain scans that show that being online like that damages kids' brains. We have the evidence of exploding mental illness among teens and tweens as soon as the iPhone is introduced, as soon as smartphones are introduced. So I don't think that's debatable. At the same time, is that why they're doing it, or is that a Trojan horse for a digital surveillance state? Yeah, that's how they're using it. But I think what Taylor Lorenz does, trying to make the argument, it's in order to justify her own. No, this doesn't damage kids. I think it hurts your argument because it undermines your credibility, because that's so obviously not true.
Yeah.
So I'm going to invite her on Jimmy so we can have that out. Yeah. French Laundry, always worth the wait. Thank you. Abiding, Hunter Biden blurb, the ultimate malarkey. The pages disappear under your hands like a rock in a crack pipe. The only purple here isn't in the prose, but Corn Pop's pomade. Go get this book, Jack. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, write that book.
You got something there.
You got a talent for this. Blurb Dave Portnoy. Biden's poolside logic is floppier than a dollar slice. Corn Pop had him shaking. I don't read books. Ink makes my eyes hurt. But this drama is a 9-4. One bite, everybody knows.
Yeah, there you go.
Mishutski, super sticker. Professor Brown note. Join my cult of Russellology, the belief that one can know the deep truths of DD by reading the micro intonations in Russ's starting hello. Crypto donations accepted. Well, today it was off because I was hearing the canon. I was hearing Keaton and then hearing Keaton and then hearing Keaton and then hearing Keaton. Legendary master van. Russell and Keaton for 2028. You got my vote. Do it. Maybe we should make up some merch going into 2028. Xander Vorkov, Lindsey Graham. Israel.
That's how he says. That's how he says Israel.
Oh, Israel. Israel is the only place in the Middle East where I don't have to pay to get my cornhole demolished. Angry Bird, super sticker. Thank you. That was a big super sticker. Ugly Old Broad says stuff. No more office goodies, Keaton. Senator Ron Johnson thinks Social Security is welfare. Save your nickels for retirement if that goixcrement has his way.
Yeah.
James D. Since you're in NYC, ever heard of DJ Danny Tenaglia? I'm not that guy.
No.
I
thought that was the super in my building once. But
yeah, I wouldn't know. I would not know. Who was the DJ who was so famous back in like the aughts? Even I heard of that guy. Well, who was he? I remember the only reason he got on my radar was I was at a party where somebody was talking about, very like emotionally, like, yeah, I don't know if DJ just say, Slim, right? I don't know if DJ Slim can still do it for me. I don't know, but I have to go. I have to see it. I'm just like, oh my God, you're a fucking regard. There's the by request. Pro Mark asked for that today. So we had somebody went off in the comments section about how upset they were at our use of that term. So I called him a regard. Michael Castillo. Yo, gentlemen, I'm back in the hellscape that is Arizona. Yesterday, I visited Jeffrey Epstein's living quarters. The doorman across the street told me that Bill Cosby lived across the street. We are all Persia, free Palestine. Yeah, that's weird. Mark Pugliese, Thomas Hypocrite. The right is supposed to be strict constructionists. Yeah. Not trying to fill in the blanks the way they want. Yeah, well, I mean, look, both sides tend to be guilty of that kind of hypocrisy. They care about things when it suits them. Viaticus Prime. Emmy Gine Kelly is another one that's often fun to hear from. Michael Castillo, Keaton, may I send you pictures from my time in NYC? I can't wait to show you what I saw. I ate at Sylvia's. Oh yeah, that's where I take Jose once in a while. It's the best quality soul food I've had. The fried chicken is nothing like I've ever had. So this is
good. Yeah, you can send me. I mean, if that's as racy as it gets, then yeah, you can send me pictures. Yeah.
Well, he didn't say what he's doing with the fried chicken.
Yeah.
I always say this, man. This is one of the things about being from New York that's awesome, but also makes travel maybe not as awesome as it might be for some other people. It is very rare that you will have food overseas that you haven't had in New York, because you have the people to whom that food is their native cuisine here making it. So they're going to make it the way that they made it there. So you've had it. So like the fried chicken at Sylvia's, I haven't had better fried chicken than that in the South.
Right.
I've had as good, not better. So you're just not going to have this experience that people who live in a land of mayonnaise and Dairy Queens are going to have when they travel. They're like, oh my God, I never tasted this before.
Right.
Ken Minji, and I got to tell you, with China, a lot of people ask me about that. I found that the food that we don't have from China is food that we wouldn't eat. Like, we're not going to eat a sheep's head. We're not going to eat that. That's why it never made it over here. The things we would like, we have it pretty much. Kevin G, when Professor Bogus is spitting facts, you know you are living in a post-truth society.
Good one. There's an unfortunate name for a Professor Bogus.
Professor Bogus. Legendary Master Van. Could a no birthright citizenship lead to denaturalization of WASP Americans who might disagree with a future potential Democrat president?
Yeah, I don't believe that they were considering denaturalizing people who were already citizens. I don't believe that was true. I think this was for people moving forward. Although I'm not 100%. I don't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure that the question was from here on out, as opposed to going back and retroactively renouncing people's or revoking, rather, not renouncing, revoking people's citizenship status.
Snorky 2K, I expect pregnant to be deported now. I would not be surprised if they try. I don't think it's workable. If they try to introduce some kind of legislation that at a certain level of pregnancy you can't board a plane to America or something. Like how you gonna find it? You gonna give them an exam? You gonna have a gynecologist at the airport? What if they say they're just fat?
Interesting, right? Just in time for the World Cup finals.
Todd for Florida. Broader language in 14th Amendment was so that it also included Native Americans, not just freed slaves, if I remember my history correctly. So that kind of reinforces what I suspect, that it's unusual even for that time.
Well,
that birthright citizenship probably wasn't normal even then.
Well, yeah, I think it was Gorsuch actually who cornered the Trump administration lawyer and asked, do Native Americans have birthright citizenship? And he couldn't answer. He wouldn't answer.
Right.
Yeah. So good call there. All right. Want to move on?
Okay. It's me.
Yep. Go ahead.
All right. So speaking of birthright citizenship and the circumstances surrounding the creation of the 14th Amendment, former President Obama had a very interesting answer when asked about George Washington.
And I think sometimes we get confused in thinking that these two stories are completely separate. They're intertwined, right? And which is why it's possible for me to be a great admirer of George Washington and also acknowledge he was a slaveholder. And that does not negate his greatness. It simply acknowledges that there's a profound, deep flaw in these founding fathers who were also geniuses and gave us these tools. And which is true of all of us, right? It's true of every president. It's that we're this mixed bag. We got contradictions and embody the country's contradictions. And
I was pro-slavery in my own way.
I spent most of my presidency and my pre-presidency and my post-presidency essentially doing the will of white men. So this is something that's familiar to me. And are you going to tell me the people at Citibank who told me who to put in my cabinet were like the old-time slave owners using me the way that George Washington used the people that he owned? I wouldn't accept that formulation. Some people would.
How do I finish this sentence without phones ringing off the hook asking for refunds at the library?
You can see. He can tell.
Yeah, halfway
he
through.
got
He was
himself
like,
into something he should not have gotten himself into.
Yeah.
But it was too late. It was too late. He had gone too far by then. Socialist Rifle Association. Besides that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play?
Yeah. He'd have been better off being like, Kanye's still a great artist despite let's see. How do I finish this?
In spite of these contradictions.
In spite of these contradictions.
Quentin Tarantino, he says the N-word more than I'd be comfortable in his screenplays, but he's still a great artist.
Still great. Got a fine piece of ass, Zionist wife.
They all do. You ever notice that?
Yeah.
Hojo 67. This is what makes Mr. Obama different from American descendants of slavery. George Washington and all slaveholders were evil men to their core. How can any man who knows slavery is wrong sign a U.S. Constitution deeming us 3/5 human, including the children they had from graping and impregnating black girl children, be considered great? Despite sharing a skin color with black Americans, Mr. Obama has the mindset of a white man, especially when it comes to U.S. slavery, Jim Crow, and American descendants of slavery. Yeah, this is why, I take changes in terms on a case-by-case basis. I reject a lot of them out of hand as inaccurate and performative. But if they are actually an improvement that lends insight rather than obscures it or being designed to start fights between people over nonsense and minutia, I'll adopt a new term. I have adopted foundational Black American. I think that's a good update to distinguish the Obamas from people who are actual descendants of slavery. There is a difference. There is a cultural difference. Any American can tell you that. Any American who has experienced people whose ancestors did not experience American slavery, who are Black living in America, from those who have, can tell you it's a completely different culture. Just because they're both Black doesn't mean they're the same.
Of course. Well, this is why, if it makes people feel any better, Barack Obama would not get reparations because he's literally not a descendant of African slaves. And of course, the difference is obvious and consequential in a huge number of ways.
Right. Well, Kamala's another one.
Yeah.
She's not. That is not her history.
Right.
Margaret Kimberly. He did turn Libya into a giant slave market, didn't he? And yes, greatness is negated by being a slave-holding genocidaire. Watch closely, though. You can see that he is struggling with making the case for what he knows to be nonsense. Yeah. The late Glenn Ford said that was an Obama specialty, reconciling the irreconcilable. And those of you who defended him should not have the nerve to be mad now. Obama was always like this. Well said, Ms. Kimberly. Yes, he was. And I'm sure you all know, yes, Obama approved the bombing that removed Gaddafi from power in what was the richest state in Africa at the time, Libya. And in short order, you could buy a human being for $400 in the slave markets of Libya. Great car. Follow-up question, Mr. President. So if you had been trafficked to Mount Vernon or the president's house in Philadelphia, would you have been trying to escape this man you greatly admired? And or would you have supported others trying to escape by any means necessary? Or would you have reported any attempts to escape to this great and contradictory man you admired? Come on, brother. Well, I think we know the answer to that question. We have the answer to that in the record of Citibank telling him who his cabinet was going to be. I think we know who Obama would have been collaborating with. It would have been Samuel Jackson and Django Unchained. Ajamu Baraka. This is why I called Obama an Uncle Tom, and the bourgeois press wanted me to apologize when I ran in 2016. And my response was, for what? Obama ended up being the worst thing to ever happen to African peoples in the U.S. because he helped to normalize white colonial power. Yeah, what did he start with? 2 wars, ended with 7? How many brown civilians he killed overseas? That's another thing that always made me sick. When you got people presenting Obama as if he represented some kind of a triumph of post-racial politics, while as he points out, what was he doing overseas? He was murdering brown people. So what? Like, you don't care about non-white people once they're outside the border? And Nick Cruz, what did Shakespeare say? Brevity is the soul of wit.
Yes.
He went for the witty rejoinder. Black liberals make me sick. Yeah. No, as Kimberly says, that's exactly right. That's who Obama always was. He was always that way. Very charismatic speaker, Nothing really behind it, right? The keynote speech that he broke out with, he didn't actually say anything. If you go back and you look at that, I believe in blue states and I believe in red states, and I didn't actually say anything. That this is his job, to put a patina of non-white credibility over narratives that white people prefer. Right? That's what white people want to hear, and he puts this stamp of approval with of a not very respected non-white person. Yes, no, I think George Washington's great in spite of his slavery. So it's okay for you to think that too.
Right, exactly. And this is all in service of his own vanity and his own aggrandizement, because, we talked about this when we did a bigger segment on the opening of the library. When you look at who Obama elevated after winning the nomination in 2008 throughout his presidency, he nominated, first of all, most consequentially, two obvious white racists in Joe Biden for vice president. That's why he picked him for vice president, because he was a white racist.
That was the point.
And Hillary Clinton, who ran a transparently racist campaign against him. They literally darkened his skin tone in the attack ads that they ran against him.
They put out ads of him in African dress.
In African dress, exactly. I'm winning hardworking white Americans was the Hillary Clinton line that she let out on stage there. And by elevating those two miserable pieces of shit, what did he do? He gift wrapped the country for Donald Trump, because when you look at who handed the country to Trump first, it was Hillary Clinton, and then it was Joe Biden by deciding he had to run again despite being in no shape to, until it was too late. And so, what is this all in service of? You can't even make a pragmatic argument for it, right? Because there was no, because the result of this was shambles. Right. The only purpose of it was the fulfillment of his own personal mission. Right. And that's clearly what has guided him all along. And he clearly has this chip on his shoulder, even about people who love him most. Don't forget, he snubbed David Axelrod for his birthday party, his 60th birthday, because it was the COVID party, so they didn't want to invite too many people or whatever it was. David Axelrod, the guy who ran your campaign, there aren't five people more responsible for you being where you are and who you are than David Axelrod, and he gets snubbed for the birthday party. He has a contempt for people who love him most, and that is the trademark of a narcissist. That's why you notice Donald Trump can't maintain personal relationships with people very well either, because narcissists tend to burn people who get closest to them.
Right.
All right. Let's move right on along, shall we? Let's put up first our scroll here. So, hey, folks, it is Film Club night, so we will be heading over to our patron-only portion of the show after the next couple of segments here. So if you would like access to the full stream tonight, including Russ's segment on the Citizen Vigilante film, and of course our Film Club presentation of the Beat Generation documentary, courtesy of our friends at Right Brain TV, you can sign up, dudissidents.com/Patreon/Substack or /locals. Membership starts at $5 a month. Film Club is one perk of membership among many. You also get your name up in lights here on the scroll. You get ad-free replays of every live stream emailed to you the day after they air, and we do an extended post-game plus Q&A once a month as well. So all that for just $5 a month. It helps us out tremendously. So if you can become a member, those are the links on the screen right there. Active Guardian says if you speed up Keaton's laugh to 1.5 times, he sounds like Woody Woodpecker. Oh, really? I'll have to try that. Thank you.
Doesn't everybody, though?
I guess everybody does, right? Palaganda. Hey, Russ, there's a biopic of Gigi Allen on the way, directed by Jonas Ackerlund and starring Caleb Landry Jones.
Is there really?
Wow.
That's funny.
R. Dean W. In a sane world, judges would not be partisan. That's right. That's right. Let's see. Peter Monahan. Hey, Gator Pete says, has anybody checked in on the mummy, Mitch McConnell? Apparently, he has been found unconscious and have been in the hospital since June 16th. I would be fired by now if I missed that many days without letting my boss, us, the citizens of the U.S., know. Yeah, apparently he is in rough shape. I did hear that,
Is this
but I
true?
have not heard confirmation that, yeah. I mean, he's been falling and he's been in really rough shape for a while now, I think. Let's see here. Lori Lamb. Left, right is a psyop to get us to fight with each other. Thank you, Lori Lamb. Let's see here. EO Shush says, to be fair to Republicans, they weren't be hypocrites when they praised Amy Coney Barrett for adopting Haitian kids. They just thought adopted was code for Thank you. EO Shush. Appreciate that. Adoption, right? Megan gonna do ping pong tricks now. Thank you. Comrade Cranky. Free Palestine, free Lebanon, free Cuba. Thank you, Comrade Cranky. Ravid Laz says, speaking of Skeletor, if Megan is Skeletor, this He-Man would love to make a special rendition of Masters of the Universe for certain sites with her. It's I'm phenomenal at sword play. Is that what you were going for there? Okay, let's see here. Professor Brown Note says, what about the ugly Jews? I guess we can go fuck ourselves. Full marks for that tweeter. Still chuckling. Yeah, that was Matt Lieb. That was Matt Lieb.
What
who is
the
a
fuck?
comic, I guess. What's that?
Somehow my TV just went on.
Oh,
It was
boy.
the fucking Mossad, man. It's the Mossad. They're messing with my devices.
It's got something going on here. His TV
My
just
TV
turned
go
on.
on. All right,
Yeah,
hang
how
on.
did that happen? All right, Russell's gonna head out there and get his TV taken care of. Let's see, Professor Brown Note. Also, Russ Obama. Somebody shit on the carpet. Still hearing that. Yep, that was a good one. I'll pass the word along. From Judd Apatow, wedding bomber starring Barack Obama and Joe Biden. Ooh, dark joke, virtuoso, but a good one. All right, here we go with Darius King. Says it's funny because Libya went through so much, but they still got cheap gas. Have y'all seen those prices in that country? I have not. Yeah, you
Those
do
are the
anything
first.
for
Those
cheap
are the
gas.
first Haints we ever had.
What's that?
We never had Haints in here before.
Got
some Haints.
All right. What do we got here? We got 600 strong in the Rumble chat, 1652 on YouTube. We have 617 likes. Let's smash that like button a little harder, shall we? So we can get up to our 666 number here. Appreciate you all being here with us tonight. Of course. Let's move right on along. All right. So here's some bad news. Congress blocks Massie-Khanna effort to kill U.S.-Israel integration. Responsible Statecraft with the reporting on this. The lawmakers wanted to stymie an NDAA resolution that would allow the Israeli military unprecedented access into Pentagon operations. So we've already done a few segments on this, but this, of course, is the effort to create a sort of Israel-American Brundlefly out of the military and intelligence services here. And so Massie and Khanna introduced a resolution to stop it, but it was drowned in the bathtub. Congress has refused to even allow a full House vote on a provision that would pave the way for an unprecedented integration of the U.S. and Israeli military-industrial complexes. The move came through the House's rules process for the National Defense Authorization Act, the NDAA, which determines which of the more than 1,000 proposed amendments to the defense policy bill will be publicly debated and voted upon by the full House. Unfortunately, after no debate on Monday, the Rules Committee chose to reject a bipartisan amendment introduced by Representatives Khanna and Thomas Massie that would have stripped the United States Israel Defense Technology Cooperation Initiative from the bill. The committee released a list of amendments that were ruled in order for a vote on Monday night, and theirs was not on it. This provision they wanted to squelch, previously known as Section 224, creates an executive agent within the Department of Defense whose sole responsibility is furthering U.S. and Israeli military tech integration across nearly every facet of the defense process, from co-producing weapons to data fusion. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has described this shift in the U.S.-Israel relationship as, quote, my plan. By rejecting the Khanna and Massie amendment, the Rules Committee on Monday ensured the American public would not even get to see how their representatives would vote on this pivotal issue. This is despite unprecedented levels of public distrust in the Israeli government and widespread public outrage directed at these proposals. Now, do you really think that this did not have the votes to pass the House? Of course it had the votes to pass the House. The reason why it got crushed in the Rules Committee is because it is widely known right now that Israel is becoming less and less popular by the day in both the Democratic and the Republican parties. And so this wasn't drowned in the bathtub because they were afraid that the resolution would pass. It's that they didn't want members to have to go on the record voting either way on this, because they know how toxic an issue this has become amongst both party bases, especially, of course, the Democratic Party base, which is now against Israel by 80+%. Young Republicans are turning against Israel in big numbers. But, of course, as we learned in Kentucky's 4th District primary, the boomers still have a pretty firm grip on Republican politics, unfortunately, and they like them some Israel. While the Rules Committee's decision is undoubtedly a setback for those worried about this unprecedented U.S.-Israeli military-industrial integration, the Senate is considering its own version of the Section 224 proposal, and ultimately the two versions of the NDAA will have to be negotiated in a conference committee. All of these points are opportunities to strip this dangerous provision from the defense policy bill. If they fail and this provision is enacted, the U.S. will find itself inexorably tied to the Israeli military. As my Quincy Institute colleague Steve Simon has written, quote, the measure risks tethering the U.S. military to its Israeli counterpart technologically and making it difficult to uproot should conditions change. In short, there may be no turning back if this provision becomes law, so the next few months may very well decide the U.S.-Israel relationship for decades to come. It's almost like that's why they log-jam this in at the last minute, because just as public opinion is slipping, they want to try and sort of glue Israeli machinery into the deep state apparatus so that it has to be proactively pried out of there. And good luck electing a president who's going to do that. Very interesting timing. Former Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene's take on this. She quote tweets our friend Gen X Girl. Seems like Marjorie Taylor Greene's a Gen X Girl fan. That's cool. Good for Gen X Girl.
Big one.
Yeah, she has quote tweeted her.
They should have a podcast together.
They should. Gen X Girls with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Gen X Girl. The Rules Committee is the Speaker's committee and passes or blocks only approved legislation by the Speaker, and oftentimes, and especially in this case, the White House. Republicans are fully controlled by neocons now. The mask is off. MAGA was just a dream. Wow. That is a damning but true statement from one of MAGA's biggest stars there. MAGA was just a dream. And so when you look at a story like this, there are two ways to interpret this. You can interpret this as a sign that it doesn't matter who you vote for, you get the same outcome anyway. But the slightly less black-pilled version of that is that this is a response to a growing trend of Israel being a make-or-break issue. I mean, we see now the libs and the liberal Zionists within the Democratic power structure is like James Carville saying, well, I don't want to share a party with someone who doesn't think Israel has a right to exist. This is why they're panicking like this. Because if this becomes a litmus test issue, and if this issue gets raised, and if this issue becomes a make-or-break issue, hey, guess what? We're not voting for anyone in the presidential primary who doesn't promise to go in there and get this gum out of the system. If this is what gets voted in, It's going to be a litmus test. Will you vote to? Will you undo this as president? And if not, you don't get a vote. That's the direction this is heading in, and that's clearly why this was done in the first place. It's done to preempt a tidal wave of opposition to Israel that both parties see in their respective bases. Unfortunately, once again, as we learned in Kentucky, it seems to be a much heavier lift now in the Republican Party than in the Democratic Party, but they're feeling it there too. And, the boomers are not going to be around forever to bolster these pro-Israel candidates. And so eventually this is going to be a make or break issue at the electorate level. And that's why they're making it as difficult as possible to decouple Israeli intelligence from the United States military before the voters have any kind of say in this.
All right. And hey, why get through a segment without pissing anybody off? This is a really good example of why I really don't give a fuck what you think about Graham Plattner. I personally don't care enough about him to even look into it. Like, I don't care. To me, that is a tool that maybe you could use when things like this come up to filibuster, to jam up the works, to build some support for shutting something like this down. Is it better to have somebody like that there or not to have somebody like that there? I mean, you jump up and cheer if Rand Paul does it, right? Why would you not want to send somebody else in there? Oh, he's not going to do it when he gets there. I don't see any indication of that. Like, you might say you're not going to like how he's going to vote on Ukraine funding. Sure. Okay. Are you going to like the way Susan Collins is going to vote on Ukraine funding? And she's not going to gum up the works. These are the stakes, because this is the kind of shit that once it's in place, everyone's going to be in jeopardy. You're already in jeopardy. You already have Israeli intelligence all over people's electronic devices.
I think Russell's TV just got turned on.
That's right there. I buy a new TV. Why, you think the Mossad didn't go, oh, I see a new TV is going to his house, get some monitoring equipment in there.
You just got
and every now and then turn it on at random. He's going to think it's a hint.
You didn't buy that at the you didn't buy that at an apartment sale down on Ludlow Street by any chance, did you?
Yeah, from a guy with the kippah.
Oh yeah, that's not good.
That's not good. Yeah, this is it. Like, you're not in a position where you're going to overthrow the government, right? Like, you're just not in a position. Okay, so at that point, I really need someone to explain to me, like I'm a 5-year-old, why, if you're against this kind of thing, you would go out of your way to jump up and down about Graham Plattner in the hope that he loses? So Susan Collins wins? Like, where do you think that ends? Like, you think the Democrats see the light and decide they're going to embrace Marxism-Leninism? Like, you think that's what's going to happen? Nancy Pelosi's going to wake up and go, you know what? After all, I'm not a capitalist. Is that is that where you think
I'm switching to Briars? I'm switching to the Briars.
It's the people's ice cream.
Yeah.
I want ice cream that doesn't melt under hot water.
And I'm not even buying the swirl. I'm choosing chocolate or vanilla, one flavor from here on out.
I'm getting the Napolitan cotton. Yeah, nah, man. This is what you're dealing with. Like, look at how dangerous this is. I would love if Graham Plattner were in the Senate right now, because as things stand now, your only hope is really, I don't know, Rand Paul. Is there anyone else in the Senate who would maybe try to filibuster this? And I don't even know if he would do it.
Well, here's the thing. When it comes to the Senate, you're talking about if something is not a budgetary matter, it needs to clear 60 votes. Now, you're talking about still the point where Israel has enough bipartisan support that you can say they'll still get there, but you're starting to get to a critical mass among the public where you can actually start chipping into that. Maybe you don't get it below 50, but you might be able to pull it below 60, like you might be able to. And it's fucking worth a shot. And if that fails, you're in big trouble. And at that point, yeah, the next president becomes hugely consequential. Doesn't have to come from a Democratic side. I'm sure Thomas Massie, well, we know Thomas Massie would undo this if he becomes president. So I'm not saying you got to register with any party, but I'm saying, like, you can't just forfeit.
I mean that's, you know what? Not to interrupt you. That's a great example of what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
What the fuck do you agree with Thomas Massie on? What do we agree with Thomas Massie on? We agree with him on this. And I would trust Thomas Massie to dismantle this as president in a way that there's nobody else who could feasibly win. I would trust to that point to deal with this.
Right. You cannot just forfeit the entire system to these people. This is, something that, I'm very open about. I'm very open about a shift in my perspective came after the killing of Charlie Kirk, because you saw in that moment just how eager the oligarchs were to destroy the system. It became obvious at that point that they are the actual accelerationists, right? We don't think of conservative politicians as accelerationists, right? Usually the conservatives are the squares who benefit from the system, and so they want to preserve the system, right? That's typically the way we look at things. And that's true of the Democratic Party aligned oligarchs as well, right? It's not really happening now. Now what you have is a fracturing off of the elites, which Peter Turchin writes about, because they sense a cultural and political cataclysm. They sense that it's a jump ball now for the society, and so they are excited at the prospect of burning it all down so that they can build it back up, because they're the elites.
Look at what our More Perfect Union just dropped about Peter Thiel building these private corporate run cities.
Right. So they have the capital and the resources to build up from the ruins. So at that point, you have to think to yourself, okay, well, all you have now are the bonds that tie people to each other as expressed in documents like the Constitution. Why do you think they tried to undo birthright citizenship? Partly it's because they're nativist fucking freaks, right? And their base are nativist freaks. But also think of the precedent that sets. If they can just sign an executive order in blatant defiance of the Constitution, at that point, the Constitution is
there's no
paper.
restraints.
At that point, they get to tear the system down and build it however they want. And so for that reason, you cannot just forfeit the system to them, because they are the ones who win in a walk if that is the case.
Well,
and so that's why
when
you have to kind of get in the game. You got to get in the game here, and that doesn't necessarily mean supporting one party over the other. Like I said, Thomas Massie,
we've been supporting Shama and Jose Vega for years.
Yeah, Jose Vega for years, and to the extent we covered his race, we were very supportive of Thomas Massie. Like, you have to get people in positions of power who can affect the system to pull back from the brink, because you're very close to the brink. And once you're over the edge, it's game over, because guess what? There ain't no people's movement there to save people. It's all going to fall into the hands of this concentrated capital. And tech capital is the most dangerous capital of all, because these people are envisioning a world of robots, not of humans, right? And so, there's no telling where it'll go past that point.
Yeah, there's the thing. If you're in a position where you got a military that is aligned with your movement, and you're in a position to actually go to civil war, talk to me. You're not. You're not. And the countries that did successfully do that, universally, were throwing out an invader. The invader brought them together across possible ideological or class differences to fight off the invader. And then the ideology of communism, in the case of Vietnam or China, won out over the other competitors. But they had a military because they were fighting a war to get an imperialist
Right.
power
It was a national
out of their
sovereignty
country.
movement.
And that was how they got an army to win their revolution. You don't have anything like that.
Well,
You have
it's
nothing
apples and
like
oranges.
that. So when you're arguing for this isn't good enough, okay, all right, well, put your hat in one hand and shit in the other, see which fills up first. Like you don't have anything to achieve that with. It doesn't exist. So then you see something like this, you need some way at this point within the system we have that you're in no position to replace to gum up the works and move it towards what you want ideologically. And as of now, you really don't have anything to stop this with. I don't know who in the Senate is really gonna bucket, or that you would have enough to bucket to stop this.
Right. Or if it comes down to it, that makes the presidential election very high stakes, right? Because you have the popular will now. I mean, like they said in the article, popular will is against this. It's against this. So you have to make that will known when you elect whoever's going to be president next. If this fails, which, it likely will. I mean, this is likely going to be implemented. We'll see how the Senate goes. We'll see how much open debate there is and what difference that makes. It doesn't seem like with the current composition of this Congress that it's going to make a whole hell of a lot of a difference. But to me, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think public opinion meant something. If public opinion means nothing, there's no reason to do this. We could go watch the game. I mean, I'd rather watch the game, right? So you have to be in it to win it. And you cannot forfeit the Constitution to these people. You cannot forfeit what is left of the society to these people.
Right.
That's what you have to think about.
Right.
You're
in no position to force your point of view.
Right. And the system is the society. That's the system. That's who's going to bear the brunt of a sudden cataclysmic change that will certainly result in consolidation of power for the oligarchs. That is the only way that goes right now. It's the only way that goes right now. And all these other comparisons, like you were talking about, it's apples and oranges. I mean, it's apples and oranges. It's not even worth entertaining.
Of course,
I don't even it's not even worth humoring, really.
Right.
All right. You want to go to some super chats?
Yes. I would like to do that. Professor Brown note, also Russ Obama, somebody shit on the carpet, still hearing that.
Oh, sorry, hang on. That one, I mean, it's good that you read that one because that was addressed to you, but I forgot to delete them. So, okay, now you can go and I'll copy and paste.
Andy Gardner, Obama bravely drank the Flint water for all of us. He sure did. What a hero. Darius King, it's funny because Libya went through so much, but they still got cheap gas. Have you all seen those prices in that country? I haven't. Jeffro, hey guys, we take Israel's nuke first, then we slap the living shit out of all in charge and make them stand in line. We are pussies, so I recon the United States of Israel. It will be. Yep. Bible, right? Yeah. Be liable. After becoming a fan of yours, I will no longer share Ozempic needles with Megan. Yeah, you gotta watch out for that. Before you know it, you'd be screaming about Black Santa Claus and all the rest of it. Yeah. Van
Nettelsbaum, that's what I call him.
V. Nettelsbaum. Now that birthright citizenship is no longer in question, can we please get back to talking about that ballroom? Yeah, looking forward to that. I predict there will be a future president who literally puts like dynamite under that ballroom and blows it up. Sphincter Knucklebuster, a building flew into a plane.
Yeah, that's what I said last time by accident.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's just like, do we have any more segments on this side?
Yeah, we do. We got one.
Yeah,
more.
so go ahead. So I'll
We
leave a
got one
couple.
more. Yeah. As a demolition, it'll be wrecking ball. Obviously, that's I think the next Democratic president is going to have to promise to do a wrecking ball of the ballroom. I don't think they can win the nomination unless they promise to
Seriously.
take a wrecking ball to the ballroom and build the East Wing back.
Like I think Trump is going to be so hated that there is going to be a campaign to like erase everything he built in DC.
Oh yeah, I think so. Well, they already ruled against him on the Kennedy Center, right?
Right,
You know,
yeah,
like they're ready to
yeah.
take his name off. Yeah, exactly. All right. Let's move right on along here. Actually, before we do, just a quick word from our friends over at Rumble Wallet. We have, of course, switching to Rumble Premium later on in the show. But I do have a quick question for you. How much control do you have over your money right now? So technology has changed everything, and now it is changing the way money works. What started as a niche is now going mainstream. Faster payments, more control, and fewer middlemen. This is not hype. This is just where things are going, and getting started today is easier than you think. With Rumble Wallet, you can buy Bitcoin, hold dollar-backed stablecoins, and even own digital gold backed by real gold, all in one place. It is a non-custodial wallet, which means you, not a bank or a platform, control access to your funds. Setup is simple. It connects with MoonPay, so you can use your debit card, your credit card, or your bank account and be up and running in minutes. And for a limited time, you can start that wallet with $10 in US stablecoin by downloading the Rumble wallet and entering our exclusive promo here at the Due Dissidents podcast, DUE10, DUE10. When you sign up now, and you can do so by scanning the QR code on the screen right now. You could even use that Rumble wallet once you're set up to support your favorite Rumble creators like us directly. Tipping through the Rumble wallet is easy, so is sending a Rumble rant, which is a great way to support the show. And when you do it through your Rumble wallet, the platform takes 0 fees, so it's a great way to support your favorite creators here on Rumble. So get started now by scanning the QR code, click the link in the description, or go to wallet.rumble.com/DD and download the Rumble wallet. From there, you can set your wallet up, enter promo code DUE10, DUE10, to get that $10 in US stablecoin. It's a limited time offer, so act now. Take control of your money and get started with the Rumble wallet today. Okay. Let's move right on along here. Let me just make sure we got all of this. Okay, we're set up here. All right, folks, this is last segment on the YouTube side, and then we will head over to the members only post game. So once again, if you would like to sign up, patreon.com/Due Dissidents. We have one more segment on Citizen Vigilante, and then we have our film club presentation of the evening, courtesy of Right Brain TV. All right, let's go one more song here before the evening's end. All right, so RFK Jr. went on with Jesse Waters to insist that if Israel wanted to commit a genocide against Palestinians, they could do it in a minute, but they're doing the opposite. They're doing the opposite. See, don't you see? They want as many Palestinians as possible in Israel, whereas it's the rest of the Middle East that was actually committing a genocide against the Jews since, let's just pluck a year out of thin air. Let's say 1948, right? Let's just pick that as an example, right? And go from there.
The East, there is an ongoing genocide against Jews and Christians in all the nations in the Mideast.
Oh.
In 1948, there was 1 million Jews in the Mideast, in the Arab countries. Today, there's about 15,000 left. 20% of the population was Christian. Now it's 5%. In Israel, in contrast, there were 150,000 Palestinians in 1948. Today, there's almost 2 million. They're 20% of the population. If Israel wanted to commit a genocide against Palestinians, it could do it in a minute. It's doing the opposite. Palestinian population is growing enormously around Israel. There are no Jews in Jordan. There are no Jews in Gaza. The number of Christians in Gaza has dropped by about 80% over the past 10 years. If you want to see where a real genocide is happening, it's not in Israel. It's happening in all the nations around it.
And one of the other things that really...
Okay, so we all understand what a lawyer trick that is. I mean, you're really relying on the ignorance of the audience because, of course, when you say 1948, you are referring to, of course, the creation of Israel, the creation of Israel. And of course, once Israel was founded as a state, as a Jewish homeland, what happened? Jews from the neighboring Middle East countries emigrated and immigrated into Israel. Get it? That was kind of the whole point of Israel, is to get Jews to move there, right? So the infographic here, this is ethnic cleansing, Jewish population, 1948 versus 2023. Egypt, 63,500 versus 1. Syria, I guess they know the only Jew in Egypt. Is that right? Syria, 40,000 versus 0. Iran, 100,000 versus 8,500. Iraq, 150,000 versus 4. I mean, you've got to be kidding me. This is how shameless this guy is. Now, they would say, well, you know, they were persecuted in these neighboring countries. Yeah, after Israel was founded. After Israel was founded, they had to do kind of a population swap because guess what? The Palestinians were kicked off of their land en masse in 1948. They had to flee. And so if they had to flee, guess what? The Jews had to go to Israel, which of course was the whole point of creating the state of Israel.
Yeah, and it's weird. A lot of the Arab countries, after seeing Jews from Europe come as guests and start buying up land in this region and then end up stealing it, they started getting antsy about having Jews in their countries.
Right.
I don't know why they felt that way, but they seem to take what had been a very peaceful coexistence with Jews, and they started to rethink that for some reason.
Right. And so were those Jews genocided? Were they murdered? Were they carpet bombed? Or did they flee to Israel, which again was the whole point of Israel? Okay, so you watch a guy like this make a point like this, and now you understand his MO, right? Now you understand the kind of lawyer games that he plays when he talks, right? Because let's just watch how he presents this information.
Middle East, there is an ongoing genocide against Jews and Christians in all the nations in the Mideast. In 1948, there was 1 million Jews in the Mideast, in the Arab countries. Today, there's about 15,000 left.
Okay, now what does that imply if you're talking about genocide? That implies that there was murderous genocidal violence committed against them. Now, he doesn't come out and say that because every good lawyer knows what you can actually explicitly state and what you have to imply. But these are lawyer games. This is his MO across the board with this guy. This is all this guy does is play lawyer games. And we ran into this when we read his book, and this reminded me of a thing we brought up with Pasta when we were talking about his book, because when I first started reading RFK's book, I thought, and I still do think, by the way, that the first 4 sections of the first chapter, broadly speaking, right, the first volume where he talks about the suppression of the alternative COVID treatments so that vaccines could be greenlit. I mean, I think that is all just reporting information that was so suppressed that in simply reporting that information, he gained a lot of credibility because he was one of the only people saying that. And hats off to him for that. I don't begrudge him saying any of that. But what got me to realizing that this is a lawyer playing lawyer tricks was this passage. And I showed this to our friend Pasta Jardula on the air, and he went pale in the face. He thought I was trying to own him. I said, no, don't worry, Pasta. I'm just making a point. Just making a point. Still love you. All right. But here's this passage. So this is the kind of lawyer trick that he plays. Okay. This is from his book. Vermont is America's most vaccinated state. On October 8th, 2021, with 88% of its citizens fully vaccinated, according to the COVID dashboard, 97 Vermont officials nevertheless reported the largest rate of infections ever and revealed that more than 3/4 of Vermont's September COVID deaths occurred in the fully vaccinated. Unvaccinated accounted for only 8 of the state's 33 virus deaths that month, and officials declined to reveal whether those 8 were partially vaccinated. So, of course, what he's implying there is that you're much better off being unvaccinated than you are to be vaccinated. But as a baseball freak and a statistics freak, as soon as I read that, I said, wait a minute. The very numbers that he cites here paint the exact opposite picture from what he's telling us. And if you just run this through a probability simulator, based on the numbers provided, an unvaccinated person is 2.32 times more likely to die than a vaccinated person. Here is the step-by-step mathematical breakdown of how that works. So if a vaccinated population is 88%, that leaves 12% unvaccinated. If vaccinated deaths are 76%, that means 24% of deaths are unvaccinated. So then you have to do some math to calculate the rate factor. So 76% of vaccinated deaths divided by the 88% of the population that's vaccinated is 0.86. And then 24% of deaths divided by only 12% of the population that's unvaccinated is 2. So when you divide 2 by 0.86, what that data that he presented, and I could already see the meltdowns happening in the chat. Don't blame me. I didn't write the book. He wrote the book. Okay, this is his data. Okay, if you don't like the point I'm making, blame him, not me. I didn't make this point. I'm not telling everybody run out and get a booster shot. Okay, calm down, relax. I'm just using the data that he presented in order to convince you of one thing actually means the exact opposite. When you compare the 2 final death rates, it confirms the ratio. The risk for the unvaccinated group is 2.3 times higher. So these are the kind of tactics that this guy uses. The guy is simply not trustworthy. He is not credible. As I said before, in the first 4 sections of that chapter, he's reporting basic facts, which is, hey, throughout Africa, hydroxychloroquine is used as a preventative against malaria. Combined with sunlight and that dosing, they had very good COVID outcome. Like, that's all. Not only is that useful information, I think that was necessary information that was withheld from the public for very cynical reasons. And so I do not take that away from it. Okay. But when you are listening to a guy like this talk, you have to understand this is how he talks. He presents statistical information in deliberately manipulative ways.
Right.
And that is why we have said from day one about this guy that he's not credible. He's not trustworthy. He plays lawyer games. He played lawyer games when he did the whole big pharma donations. Oh, you take money from big pharma. Of course, what that meant was people who work in the pharma industry.
Right.
So if you worked at a manufacturing plant, you know, if you worked the graveyard shift at the Bayer aspirin factory, you were considered a big pharma donor, even though you're not really a big pharma operative in any kind of meaningful way. So it just reminds me, because when you see him make this argument about genocide in the Middle East and actually argue that, no, actually Jews were genocided in the Middle East, not the Palestinians, you go into that knowing enough to see through his lawyer tricks. But he pulls these lawyer tricks all the time. This is his default method of argument.
Right. We read that book. Actually, speaking for myself, I was probably biased in his favor going into it.
I was. I called Russell. I said, you got to read this book, because I started reading it before he did. I was very excited. And then, but that example that I just cited was what got me to think, okay, now do I have to go back and reread everything? Because he almost slipped that past me. Now is he slipping things past me all the time?
Yeah. The thing that's exactly it. The thing that got me was when I hit the AIDS chapter, and really, you want to talk about sleazy, because he comes into it because he knows that he can't defend the position that HIV doesn't cause AIDS. So he comes into it and says, I'm not saying that HIV doesn't cause AIDS. I'm just going to spend the next 40 pages arguing that it doesn't.
Right.
So then when you say to him, you're saying HIV. No, I said right at the beginning of the chapter that HIV causes AIDS. I'm just asking questions, right? So he's recycling shit that I used to hear in the 90s about how HIV was from bad nutrition or, having a rundown system from drug use. And this is why it was affecting gay men, because they were taking party drugs and having sex. Like, this is the kind of shit he's recycling there. But the thing that really got me, because I was ready to go to the mat for him, like a lot of people unfortunately still are. It was something very simple. He said that Larry Kramer called Fauci a murderer. That's true. Going back to lawyer tricks, that's true. So I mentioned that to somebody. Yeah, Larry Kramer said he was, called Fauci a murderer. They say, yeah, but now he's one of his main defenders. And I looked it up, and yeah, he had reconciled with Fauci ages ago and actually became a close friend of his, one of his main defenders, even during COVID. So at that point, you can't trust a person like that, especially when you do what we do, where people are trusting you to convey information. You can't, once you see a source is that deceptive and that unreliable, you can't go to them. You can't use them. This was like the thing we got into with Michael Tracy. Michael Tracy grossly distorts a lot of the information that he presents. And, somebody said to me, well, but what about information he shares that's valid? I said, well, once I see that a reporter is going to mislead you, like he did on the question of whether Epstein was guilty of sex trafficking, which he was under federal law, which Michael Tracy hid the ball on until he was called out on it, and then he admitted it and shifted the goalpost to it shouldn't be federal trafficking at that age, which, okay, if that's the hill you want to die on. Once you see that somebody can't be trusted, you can't use them, because the whole point of going to a reporter is you're going to do that work and research that other people don't have the resources or the time to do.
Right.
That's your job. Once you show that you can't be relied on to tell the truth, even if you're right in 9 out of 10 things you say, if the 10th time I can't trust you, that's the point. I don't have time. That's your job. I don't have time to go through the other 9 things to make sure you're telling me the truth. And in RFK's case, I think it's a gross travesty for him to be as deceptive as he is in that book, when, as you point out, he brought to light so many important truths, because you make it so easy for people to discredit those who want to use those facts. Oh, you got it from the HIV doesn't cause AIDS guy? Now you fucked the whole book. Now it can't be used. Now you can't be used. You can't be quoted without inviting some justified derision. Oh, you're using that guy as a source. So if anything, you further undermine the credibility of people who are trying to make a valid argument about how a lot of facts around COVID were being covered up. Now, from being a champion of that point of view, you've become actually a detriment to people with that point of view.
I mean, he, in the debate against Crystal Ball, not the COVID debate, the one about the Israeli campaign in Gaza, he says, they use the door tappers or whatever, the door knockers, where they send these non-explosive projectiles to the roof knockers. That's it. The roof knockers, door knockers. That's the Passover story. Sorry, I got that confused. No, the roof knockers, where they send non-explosive projectiles to warn the Palestinians in advance that there's going to be a missile. Yeah, does this look like they used roof knockers? And he made that point amidst this.
Right.
And when you looked it up, it turned out they actually discontinued that policy, I believe. Now I'm going off memory because I wasn't planning on doing this. I believe in 2008 or 2009. Like, they had not done that in many, many years at the time he said it. Right. And so, yeah, this is just, but it's a good time to highlight that when he says something that, now, especially that we've been following this issue as closely as we have for 3 years, when he says something so transparently absurd and insidiously manipulative as well. Look at the numbers. In 1948, there were 1 million Jews in the Middle East. Now there are only 15,000. Yeah, because what else happened in 1948? They created Israel. That's where the Jews were supposed to go. You know, but notice he doesn't say that in that clip. You know, you just say, so let's say 1948, there were 1 million. Now there were 15,000.
That's his book. That's his book. And that's why you can't trust it, man. Like, that's the whole thing. You're going to go to an expert because they prove themselves reliable. Once they prove they're not reliable, you can't use them. Because what? Do you have the time to fact check every single fucking thing? RFK
The point of reading a book is to learn what's in the book.
Right.
Yeah. Not to give yourself homework on what to research. That's the whole point of a book, you know?
Right.
All right. So we're going to do some last super chats and rumble rants, and then we're going to head over to the members only room. So how many we got in the members only room now? 52. All right. Eric Rousseau says, are you saying that socialist AOC is not fighting against the Israeli merger with the Pentagon? She's not going to create a ruckus. No, not her.
No, I don't think so. No.
Rowan Rock, thanks for the $5. Republican reluctance to vote by mail might have something to do with the postal workers union endorsing Biden in 2020. Okay. I think so the Republican reluctance might have something to do. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Well, I mean, if the Republicans weren't voting by mail, you'd think the postal workers, if they were just motivated purely by self-interest, would appreciate Donald Trump and his voters because it's less work for them, right? Wow, RFK Jr. Wow. Thank you, Deep Green. And Terabang, when RFK talks, I get sad. Russell's Peasant Mind. Jerry, haven't I always been a good uncle? This guy's got the Uncle Leo. You should change your name to Uncle Leo now. Who told you when you went to school that you print well? So good. You know, it's just a testament to how great that show is, that the creative forces behind it were absolute contemptible scum, and yet it's still a good show. Like you still smile when you read Seinfeld quotes as much as they're all such fucking pieces of shit. Fox with the Communist Revolution propaganda title slop during the interview. Well, yeah, no, that's boomerism right there for you. That is boomercratic slopulist of America propaganda. That's what I call that. All right, folks, that is some of our show. The show continues for members only. If you'd like to help support the show for $5 a month, patreon.com/do dissidents. We're going to take a 5-minute break and then be getting on with the rest of the program. It is Film Club night with our friends at Right Brain TV. We also have one more segment, which is going to be a really fun and juicy segment on Citizen Vigilante.
Yeah, we're going to have fun with that. Like I said, that is not going to be, half of that won't be in the clip version.
Yeah. The clip version of that is going to be weak beef.
Weak
beef. So come for the beautiful beef.
Yeah. If you want the beautiful beef, you have to come to Rumble.
That's what we should call, actually. We should call we can workshop this now. What does everybody think? Our patron-only segment should be called the beautiful beef segments. Instead of the post game, we'll call it beautiful beef.
Where the beef is.
Yeah, where the beef is. Don't settle for weak beef. Come get the beautiful beef by becoming a member. Hey, if you're not sticking around for the rest of the show on the members side, that's okay too. Thursday, 12 p.m. Eastern is when you will see us next. If you're not sticking around with us for the rest of the festivities this evening. Oh, look at that. 829 in the like column. Just but of course, if you are,
we have some people not sure if HIV causes AIDS. Well, I know some people with it. You should have some unprotected sex with them, and you can find out. If you're not confident in RFK's bona fides as a scientist, you should go fuck some people with HIV.
I've been in 377
I fucked the monkey. They say it was patient 0, and look at me, I'm fine.
I found the monkey. I cut its dick off and put it under a microscope. Nothing there.
Nothing there.
Nothing there. I didn't see nothing.
I don't, honestly, man, I don't understand the RFK cult at this point. At this late date, I don't get it.
I didn't see shit. All right. Well, hey, there's the patreon.com/do-dissidents, and then check the most recent posts and you'll find the link to the rest of the show. If not, that's all right. We'll see you Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern. Until then, thanks very much for being with us this evening. Be safe and be well.
Courage!
Please clap.